The siren wailed. A desperate, rising shriek that tore through the quiet evening. I saw the flash of red and white in my peripheral. But the real shock hit when I saw her Barbara, our HOA president, standing there. Arms crossed. A smug smirk on her face. How could she? An emergency vehicle was being held at bay, its precious seconds ticking away, and she was blocking its path over a petty, self-imposed rule. My breath hitched. The air grew thick with tension, the kind that buzzes before a storm. I was watching it unfold from my porch, a helpless witness to a tragedy in the making. The paramedics, their faces grim and urgent, were pleading with her, their voices a muffled drone against the wailing siren. "Ma'am, this is a medical emergency. Please, move your vehicle," one of them yelled. But Barbara just shook her head, a venomous smile playing on her lips. "Rules are rules," she stated, her voice sharp and brittle. "And this is a private road. Unauthorized vehicles are not permitted." My hands balled into fists, my knuckles white. She was a monster. What was she even thinking? My heart pounded, a frantic drumbeat of disbelief and rage. The real story, the one you don't see on the nightly news, began 2 years ago. We were new here, drawn in by the manicured lawns and the promise of a quiet, family-friendly community. It seemed perfect. What we didn't know was that Barbara ran the HOA with the iron fist of a tyrant, micromanaging everything from the shade of our porch lights to the length of our grass. We, the new family on the block, became her favorite target. She'd harass us with daily complaints, citing obscure bylaws, all because we were the first family of color on the street. Her subtle, insidious racism was a poison she dripped into our lives, a constant low-grade fever of anxiety. We tried to talk to her, to reason with her, but she was impenetrable, a brick wall of self-importance. Then came the day the fire started. Not in our home, but next door at the Reynolds place. The old couple who lived there were trapped. We called 911, and the fire department was on its way. But Barbara, citing a newly passed and completely illegal bylaw, had placed a series of heavy planters and private property signs to create a temporary chicane on the main access road, a narrow street that led directly to the Reynolds home. We screamed at her to move them, to let the fire engine through. But she just stood there, her face a mask of cold, unfeeling defiance. "They're just following the rules, aren't they?" she said, her voice dripping with condescension. The fire truck had to find an alternate route, costing them precious minutes. The Reynolds home was engulfed. I heard the crackle and roar of the flames, the shattering of glass, and my heart sank. Barbara stood watching, her face illuminated by the ghastly orange glow, a strange, triumphant look in her eyes. It was a moment etched in my memory forever, a defining image of her cruelty. We were all witnesses, but no one had the courage to confront her. Not then. We were all too afraid of her power, her petty vindictiveness. This time, it wasn't a fire. It was something far more personal. It was my daughter, little Lily, who had a severe allergic reaction. Her throat was swelling shut, her breathing shallow and ragged. My wife, Sarah, was screaming into the phone with the 911 dispatcher while I held Lily, trying to keep her calm, trying to keep her alive. The ambulance came, the lights flashing like a frantic, silent beacon, but they were met with the same cold, unyielding barrier. Barbara was there, her sedan parked across the mouth of the cul-de-sac. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice devoid of any real remorse. "It's a one-way street, and the bylaws state that non-resident vehicles are not allowed to turn around here." A choked sob escaped Sarah's lips. She ran toward Barbara's car, beating on the window with her fists. "Please, please, my daughter. She can't breathe." Sarah was hysterical, her voice cracking with terror. Barbara just sat there, a blank expression on her face, and picked up her phone. "I'm calling the police," she announced, her voice a flat monotone. "You're damaging my property." That's when I knew, with a chilling certainty, that this wasn't just about rules. This was about power. This was about a deep, ugly sickness inside her, The paramedics, seeing the standoff was going nowhere, had to make a choice. They decided to carry Lily on a gurney the rest of the way. A desperate, heart-wrenching foot race against time. The siren was switched off now, replaced by the thudding of their running feet and the ragged gasps of my wife and I as we followed behind. I kept my eyes fixed on my little girl, her face pale and her lips tinged blue. Every second felt like an eternity. At the hospital, after hours of agonizing waiting, we got the news. Lily would be okay. But those wasted minutes, those precious, irreplaceable minutes, could have cost her everything. Sarah and I sat there in the hospital room, holding each other, the relief a tidal wave washing over us. But a cold, hard resolve was beginning to form in my mind. We would not let this stand. We couldn't. This time, Barbara had gone too far. The confrontation with Barbara, the one that broke her, wasn't a shouting match on the street. It was in the hushed, cavernous courtroom, the air thick with the smell of old paper and dust. Our lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named M.S. Davies, had built a case that was airtight. She had compiled a dossier of every one of Barbara's violations, from the incident with the Reynolds house fire to the countless petty harassments we had endured. And most importantly, she had a secret weapon. A new character was about to enter the stage. A face from Barbara's past that no one expected. Mr. Henderson, the gentle, quiet man who lived across the street, the one Barbara had constantly belittled for his overgrown garden, was now on the stand. He was the one who had seen everything, heard everything, and documented it all. He had a small wooden sign with a handwritten message on it, the same one that appeared in the image, and he was holding it up now. The sign read, "Rules are for the righteous." He explained it was a phrase Barbara had said to him once, a chilling declaration of her twisted sense of justice. Mr. Henderson had been her neighbor for years, and he had a folder full of her abuses, meticulously documented. Every time she had done something egregious, he had noted it down, quietly and methodically. He had been waiting for this moment. His testimony was the final nail in the coffin. Barbara's smug exterior began to crack. Her face, usually so composed and sharp, was now a portrait of disbelief, then a sickening, slow-dawning terror. The judge, his face impassive, delivered the verdict. The HOA was dissolved. The bylaws were nullified, and Barbara was to be held personally liable for the damages. Her petty reign of terror was over. The courtroom was silent, except for a few choked gasps. I looked at Barbara, and she looked back at me, her eyes hollow, defeated. It wasn't a triumphant moment. It was a tragedy of her own making. A woman who had let her pride and prejudice consume her, leaving her with nothing. The verdict was a shockwave that reverberated through our little community. A sense of peace, a feeling we had long forgotten, finally settled in. The street felt different now, no longer under a watchful, judgmental eye. But the biggest change wasn't in the streets or the houses. It was in us. We learned that to stand by and do nothing is to be complicit. The community came together, rebuilding what was broken, and forming a new, truly democratic HOA, where neighbors helped neighbors. The incident with my daughter was a tragedy. Yes, but it was also a catalyst for change. A hard-won lesson in the true meaning of community. The image of Barbara, defeated and alone, is something that will stay with me. But what stays with me more is the image of my daughter, healthy and laughing, playing in the sun. It's the sound of neighbors talking on the street, of children's laughter, of a community healing. It's the sound of silence, of the absence of fear, and the presence of hope. Do you think the lawsuit was the right call? Or should the community have tried to handle it differently? Where do you draw the line between following rules and doing what's right?